homeschooling gets fun. You start to look at your kids and don't try to guess this when they're 5, because it doesn't usually show until they're 12-ish, plus or minus a couple years. But you'll start to clearly see, hey, she's a dancer. He's a mathematician. She's a musician. Oh, she's an aspiring chef. And this is where you get to add secret sauce to homeschooling. So at this point in your homeschooling career, or this point in your teaching career, you will be looking at your kids and you will see these talents and abilities come to the surface. They might be heavily into sports. They might be heavily into writing. And it's at this point that you did I late it? So you add the secret sauce. Sorry, it clicked out. They might be into science. They might be into math. They might be into music. They might be into photography. He, yes, got in front of me. Behind his little face is Mount Rainier behind there. So he thought it'd be really cute to jump in front of the camera. There's a gorgeous mountain right behind him. But they might be into photography, or they might be into some sport like rowing. So once you've identified their talents and passions, you narrow in on it and you start to just feed them information that's going to whet their appetite. You collect books and videos about whatever it is they're interested in. You find classes, projects, experiences. You push other things aside and make space for them to actually dig in. And you combine subjects whenever possible. This is so important that you give your kids time to develop and to grow and to blossom, and push other things aside if necessary. And this is how you use secret sauce, right? You identify a topic of interest, and it could be anything. It could be reptiles. It could be writing. It could be basketball. It could be programming. It could be history. It could be anything. You identify a topic and you start to think about ways to weave in all the subjects and things that could make it fun, right? You pick an end project. This is a project 25 years in the making. So when I started homeschooling my kids, hey Hester, when I started homeschooling my kids, I would collect for them to work on, projects for them to see. And I'd spread them on the table like a buffet. And when we'd identify something that they wanted to learn, we would pick a project. So maybe it would be doing a mind map, or developing an invention, or any of the other projects that I've collaborated and collected over the years. We pick a project, and then we take the time to actually reverse plan the project. This is so important, and don't be overwhelmed by this. Okay, what you're doing is you are feeding into your child's interest. You've identified something that they're super curious about. You've picked a project that they can do, that they're interested in, and now you're taking your planning sheet and you are mapping it out. Let me blow up my screen. So what are you going to study? What is the secret sauce project that you grabbed? So what is it that you're going to be doing? Is it a puppet show? Is it a dance? Is it a PowerPoint presentation? Is it a diorama? Is it something out of clay material? Is it an essay? What is the project? What are the materials that you're going to need? How many days or weeks are you going to take to complete it? When is the rough part of it due? When will the project be complete? And the most important part, do not miss this part. Who will I present my project to when it's done? When you're talking about secret sauce, when you're talking about what you're teaching your kids and you want them to blossom and grow, it has to have value. And your kids know that it has value when they get to show it to somebody, and that somebody goes, oh, that's phantasmagoric. I think that's the coolest thing I've seen this week. Don't miss that part. Give your kids the opportunity to shine, right? Just like the top of the Chrysler building in Annie. And you want to give them different ways to express themselves as they're learning. Oops, I'm clicking on the wrong screen. So it's so beautiful to watch your kids blossom. These are our youngest 3 boys. That's me and my husband, and then our 3 sons, Isaac, Sam, and Stephen. And it is so amazing. That's Stephen when he was a munchkin. He thought he was cool, like his big brother. He put his little Sharpies in his pens. So amazing to watch your kids fall in love with learning. And once, you start off with their heart and their character, and then you have your master goals and you've given them that solid foundation. And then once they start to develop and grow, they're able to dive deep into areas that interest them and make their hearts beat faster. And they're able to apply themselves to a project. And then they're able to map out the project just like a grown-up. And then they're able to present it because everybody wants to get a pat on the back. Not selfishly, it's important that our work is validated. And so I want you to experience what this is all about. I want you to experience homeschooling with secret sauce. I want you to get your hands on the project cards. I want you to try these types of things with your kids and learn to observe your kids as if they're a scientific experiment. When they're little, you're just working on the foundation stuff. You're just working on the foundations. You're just going after your goals. But once they start to go that they're playing their guitar or they're beating on their drum or they're painting with their brush or whatever the thing is, and you start just feeding them information so that it's like stoking a fire. You're seeing if it'll catch. You're seeing if it'll actually catch, right? And it doesn't always. I remember my youngest son thought he wanted to play the drums. So we were able to access an electric drum set and we got him some drum lessons. He just wasn't interested. He's a rower. We have had kids, and I can't think of another example right off the top of my head, but you lean into it. You go to the library, you check out every book on the thing that they're interested in. You don't make it an assignment. You're smart, right? You pick out all the picture books on pottery because they're interested in pottery, and they say they don't want you to read the book. That's okay. You just put the books on the windowsill and you set them on the bookshelves and you ignore them for days. And sure enough, your kids will wander and look and poke. And that's where you're being like the spy, because you're watching which books do they gravitate toward, which things are they truly interested in. And then you get them more and more information. And then you just keep fanning the flame. So how do you find secret sauce? And why am I saying this? Because inside there's a free trial. Now, the cards are not a part of the free trial. This is part of being a part of secret sauce. But if you join for a month, you can grab the cards. And if this space is not for you, that's fine. You can keep the cards as a gift from me. But this is how you find it. You go to my website and then you click right there where it says secret sauce. It's going to open to a page and you're looking for my picture. And you're going to click on that image and then you're going to scroll. You're going to scroll through the page. If you want to read all of this information, it tells you about everything that's inside Secret Sauce and all the wonderful testimonials of the moms that are inside. You're looking for that fine print that says click here to get a free trial. When you click on that, it's going to open. If I can get to the next page. It's going to open to the trial part of Secret Sauce. And there are a few resources in there that are ready to go for you. But I specifically want you to get a copy of my book, Homeschooling from the Inside Out. It's the PDF version. You can, on Amazon, you can actually get a printed copy of this book, but I'm going to encourage you to get the PDF copy that's free. And I want you to read it. It's a very fast read, lots of big text. want you to read it because I want you to understand what it means to homeschool from the inside out. Give me just a couple pages. If it doesn't grip you and if it doesn't make you nod your head and if it doesn't resonate with you by page 5 or 7, then you can go ahead and just skip on your merry way and skip rocks on the water and you'll be fine. But I would love to share this. It took me so long to settle into this level of resting in homeschool that I would love that to be my gift to you. It's kind of my legacy that I hope to pass on. So that's kind of it. Homeschooling. What do you teach when? What do you teach when you want to focus on character? You have to identify your homeschool goals so that you are aiming at something at the end of the journey. You want to focus on the foundation while the kids are little because you don't want to impose your belief of what you think they want to be when they grow up when they're 7, because that's silly. It's I wanted to be all kinds of stuff when I was little. And actually, that's not true. I always wanted to be a mom and a teacher, and I kind of did that. But my kids have all had different visions when they were young, and they weren't ready to jump into those things until they were around the age of 12. Once they knew how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, once they knew how to read, once they knew how to do basic writing things, and then we designed almost all of their homeschooling around what they love and what made their heart beat faster and what their passions were. And what that meant is at the end of the homeschooling, they've all been able to dive deep into their passions. I learned that the power of this when my oldest son was in the 8th grade. He was sitting at the kitchen table and he was frustrated because he hated school at that point. And I remember seeing him, like really seeing him in that moment. And I leaned in and I said, buddy, I owe you an apology. And he said, what? And I said, I want you to take all of your curriculum, all of that stuff sitting in front of you, and I want you to push it aside. And he did. And I said, I'm sorry that I have filled your life with so much busy work that's not important to you, that you don't have time to write the book that you would like to write. And I'm so sorry that I don't give you enough time to dive deep into history. So this is what we're going to do. You're not going to touch that history curriculum again this year. You're not going to touch the writing curriculum again this year. Instead, every day I'm going to give you an hour to 2 hours to work on your book, to chase your creative juices as you create your novel, as you write your novel. And then for history, what we're going to do, because he wanted to be a history professor at the time, I said, what we'll do is we'll create an outline and you're going to work on preparing and compiling your master files for your future classroom for you to teach history. And he burst into tears. Really? You mean I get to work on things that are important to me? Absolutely. And that was the beginning. That was the beginning of Secret Sauce. That was the beginning of leaning into passions. So how did it turn out in the end? Becky, does this really work if you identify your goals and then you focus on the foundations and then you feed into passions? Does it really work in the end? Well, it did for us. All 5 of our kids, we did this with all 5 of our kids. And each and every one of them was complete and totally different. Our oldest turned out to have a historian's brain, and he is now married and thriving in life and doing fantastically. Our second son, very creative, very artistic, very gifted in writing. He went on, and he loves like filmmaking and animation. He went on to get his bachelor's degree in digital filmmaking, has produced some animations, and is starting to work on production projects with the church organization that he's involved with and other organizations within his community. Our third son started his musical career playing in his crib during crib time, where he would play for a little bit. I'd give him a bin of books and then something to play with. And I remember walking in on him one day and he had a bin of plastic balls and he was sitting there clicking the balls rhythmically. Like, okay. Well, it turns out that the kid is a master guitarist. He's a master musician. And once we identified that he was musically inclined, we gave him plenty of time to practice. He's now 20 and he's put in thousands of hours of practice on the guitar, and it shows. He's now pursuing his degree toward being a worship pastor. And I don't share any of this to brag. I don't share any of this to brag. My kids put their pants on one leg at a time. They have to be told to empty the dishwasher. They have to be told to make their bed. They have to be reminded that the dog needs to go outside every day. They're regular kids. But we identified what made their heart beat faster. And then we gave them opportunities to pursue that. Just a second. I have to remind myself that I'm lovely. Just a second. Been chatting a bit today. So he is now pursuing his degree to be a worship pastor, and he's amazingly gifted in the guitar, amazingly gifted. I miss the sound of his music in our home. Our next son, when he was 4, now remember, you're waiting until they're 12, but when he was 4, we were driving to the store and he was tossing a ball in the car as we were driving. And he was like, Mommy, how come when I throw the ball up in the air, it doesn't hit me in the face? I'm like, what? He was 4. And I go, I don't know. Why do you think? And eventually, and I was quiet and I just let him think. And he said, I think it's because the ball is moving as fast as the car. Yes, Sam, that's exactly why. The kid is brilliant. He's our academic brain. So what we leaned into with him was giving him mathematics stuff that he could work through more deeply. I actually had to hold him back in math because I didn't want to be the one to have to teach him calculus. I wanted to release him to the college professors to teach him calculus, but he went on to get his Associates of Science degree and is in the process of moving toward becoming a marine biologist. He works in a science lab at the college and is thriving. Like he breathes math and science. And then our youngest, who, if there was a professional position to be a professional pogo stick jumping, sword fighting, rowing, writer, entrepreneur, that would be our youngest. He was our busy bee. And what has risen to the surface in the last few years, he's now 17, is that he truly needs to be moving and working with his hands. And COVID really brought that out when everybody was in lockdown. He picked up crocheting again because I taught him to crochet when he was 4 because he was driving everybody crazy during quiet time. And during COVID, he started to really lean in and he created like hundreds of things that he sells now, that they're these beautiful creations. But he's also a painter and a sculptor, and he is pursuing rowing toward an end goal. He would love to go to nationals and would love to row for the US in the Olympics. And so he's currently in the process of pursuing rowing and working toward being recruited to a college. So we'll see if that all pans out. But so does it work? Does it work to focus on the heart and character and never compromise that stuff? And then to lean into passions and talents and abilities? I would say a resounding yes. I will also say that it takes a lot of work and you really have to fight self-doubt and overwhelm because everybody's always talking about the academic stuff and what curriculum are you going to use and what style homeschooler are you. It really comes down to truly studying your kids, truly studying them, and then girding them up and strengthening them, just like if you were going to grow a plant that needed a trellis or that needed to be guided and directed as it's growing. Your kids are the same way. You can see what they need. You can fertilize the ground that they're planted in, and then you can guide and direct them until they're ready to fly. It's a magical thing, and it truly is secret sauce to lean in to what your kids love, what makes their heart beat faster, what their talents are, and then to continue to coach them as they grow. So I am not a historian. I am not a musician. I am not a screenwriter or a mathematician or a scientist or a rower. And something that my husband always instilled with the kids is that they identify people that are further down the path than them, people that have the experience and the expertise that they need. And we encourage our boys to be expert help seekers. So this is an advanced thing. So once the kids are like 14, 15, and they start taking their passions and running with it, you might not have the skills to help them get where they need to go, where they want to go. But you need to be coaching them that, okay, now who will have the information? Who will have the skills? Who will have the training to help pull you in the direction that you want to go? Super important that we encourage our kids to ask for help, but to ask for help in the right places. Just asking a question on Twitter or on Facebook or on YouTube is not necessarily going to get you the answer that you're looking for. So in homeschool, for example, if you are looking for someone to guide and direct you in homeschooling, you want to be able to peek into their life a little bit and see the fruit on the tree, right? How are the kids? Are they respectful? Are they disciplined? Are they kind? Are they loving? Are they helpful? I think I said that already, but that means it's doubly important. Are they helpful? Are they compassionate? All of the things. Do they have the right character? Are they attentive? Can they look you in the eye, listen, and then ask appropriate questions? So what kind of people is that homeschooler raising? What kind of talents and abilities and skills are they developing? And then you can lean into that, and then you can learn from her, whoever she is out there on the internet. But when it comes to your kids need to also be able to look for experts in their field and lean in and glean, and have teachable hearts and be hardworking, have grit and determination, and to realize that nobody is great at anything the first time that they try. Okay, wait. I'm actually really good at almost anything the first time, and then I fail miserably after my pride gets in the way, and then maybe I can develop the skill set later. But most of us are not good at stuff the first time that we try it. So we need coaches and mentors and people that have gone before us that can lead the way. And your kids and my kids are no different. So before I say goodbye, what do we teach if we want to focus on character? Well, we teach foundations in learning. We teach the foundations of academics, and then we get to the fun stuff. Then we get to add the secret sauce. So anyway, my name is Becky. If you have questions, I don't see any questions or comments. So if you have questions, feel free to answer them, especially if you're watching this in the replay, or to ask them, and then I'll circle back later and address your questions later. But I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope that you understand that homeschooling doesn't have to be super overwhelming, doesn't have to be expensive, but it does take some creativity and strategy in order to feed your kids so that they can grow and develop into who it is that they are destined to be. So anyway, have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.